Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of Monday, November 16, 2020. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Okay, Wide. Absent. Billhauer.
Here.
Roby.
Here.
Rademsky.
Here.
Sorry, Manti.
Here.
Lallam.
Here.
Pauline.
Here.
Hoyer.
Here.
Bueller.
Here.
Albertson.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Did I skip Don?
No,
Did I say Roby?
you called him.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Very good. All right. The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Lallam
Second.
and a second by Rademsky. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Billhauer.
Aye.
Roby.
Aye.
Rademsky.
Aye.
Manti.
Aye.
Lallam.
Aye.
Pauline.
Aye.
Hoyer.
Aye.
Bueller.
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment period. This is the time reserved for anyone who would like to make a public comment to step forward and do so. Please state your name into the microphone or say permission to speak if you're online before making your comment. And if your comment is related to an agenda item, please wait until that agenda item is taken up by the council. Is there anyone who cares to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Vilhauer, second by Lallam. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Billhauer.
Aye.
Roby.
Aye.
Rademsky.
Aye.
Manti.
Aye.
Lallam.
Aye.
Pauline.
Aye.
Hoyer.
Aye.
Bueller.
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good, thank you. Okay, we're on to the regular agenda. And the very first item is recognition of award winners by the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities. And I'm really excited. There's a bunch of people here that nobody can see, but I'm going to ask them to come forward to be recognized. And we have the chairman of the committee. Is that right, Jamie? Is that your title? Jamie Folk will be listing off the award winners. And I'd like them to come up and just try and maintain as much social distance as you can and kind of go between these two council members if you're standing in a group so that the camera can see you all and space yourselves out. So Jamie, I'll let you go ahead. Sure.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I wanted to say thank you to the councilman for allowing us the opportunity to come share our story, and thank you for your time. The individuals that we're going to recognize today have been a very positive impact to our community, and we are so proud to acknowledge them today. What brought this on is throughout the month of October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. In addition to that is something we like to celebrate, but it's the 75th year of celebrating that awareness, along with the 30th year for American with Disabilities Act. There's been a lot of movement and changes to those acts that kind of lead us to where we are today. We appreciate all of the community support and everything they do for people with disabilities. And the individuals were recognized today were just outstanding members that contributed to those type of awareness activities. So right now I'm going to, our first award, we're going to congratulate all the students of the Watertown Lego League, Chaotic Construction, along with their coaches, Cece Susi, Wendy Kruger, and Ken McIntosh, for being awarded the 2020 Distinguished Service Award. This award is given to an individual or organization in public recognition of extraordinary contributions to advancing the employment and/or empowerment of people with disabilities. The Watertown Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities celebrates these achievements throughout the month of October, which has been proclaimed as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This year celebrates 75 years of NDAM, Employment Awareness for People with Disabilities, along with the 30th anniversary of Americans with Disabilities Act. The Lego League is an after-school program in which students work together on a themed project. Last year's theme was City Shaper. The objective of this project was for the students to look at their community and come up with a project that would improve their city. The students discovered there was a need with the parks in Watertown. They observed that there was not one park in Watertown that was accessible for people who used wheelchairs or for others with disabilities to play and be involved on the playground with their families and friends. They proposed that Morningside Park be improved and made accessible for all children. They did a lot of research and visited with many people in Watertown. The group invited the mayor to the class and discussed the concern with her. They did research on equipment for people with disabilities and talked with the Optimist Club requesting for donations to help with the cost of it. The Optimist Club, as well as other local organizations, have approved to give money towards the ADA park. The students shared this information at a competition in Sioux Falls. The judges were very impressed that the students came up with this type of project and all the follow-through that they completed with it. As a result of these students sharing their discovery for the needs of the ADA Park in Watertown, they have created a momentum for many local agencies and organizations to work towards implementing this plan of building a park in Watertown that will be accessible for all. In addition to the work they put towards the ADA Park, these students are involved in awareness for people with disabilities, in saying no to the R Word campaign, and doing activities for the Human Services Agency. For these reasons, we, the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities, are very proud to give the Distinguished Service Award to Chaotic Construction Lego League. The award is presented, and as I call your name, please step forward. Cece Susi. Josie Compton. Abby Reeves. Connor Guffin. Alex Lamb. Renee Royce. Wyatt Kruger. Landon Whittle. Dominic Youngblood. We want to recognize Xander Metler, who is absent this evening. Malachi Maskovich, thank you. Wendy Kruger. And Coach Ken McIntosh. Wait for a sec. Good job. Okay, our next award is on behalf of the Mayor's Committee We would like to congratulate Casey Tetzloff. Casey is being awarded the NDAM 2020 Outstanding Employee of the Year. This award is given to an employee in recognition of outstanding achievement in employment for overcoming employment challenges, as well as providing inspiration for all other employees. The Watertown Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities celebrates these achievements. I already read that part, so I will. But Casey is currently employed at Hy-Vee. Casey started working at Hy-Vee in the kitchen while in high school over 8 years ago. As a work experience through Project Skills, Casey was hired on from this work and continues to be employed there today. Casey now works as a courtesy clerk, bagging customers' groceries and pushing carts in from the parking lot. Casey is goal-oriented and states that one day he wants to be president of Hy-Vee. Casey considers Hy-Vee his family, second family. He loves going to work to see his fellow Hy-Vee workers and also the customers that come to the store. Casey always shows a helpful attitude and will look for challenges and jobs that need to be done. Casey displays a strong work ethic and friendly personality to whomever he meets. Casey's longevity at his job is something he is proud of, as well as something his employers commend him on. In 2019, Casey was honored by receiving the Hy-Vee Employee of the Year Award for his job commitment to Hy-Vee. Casey is also busy outside of his employment. After school, Casey attended Presentation College in Aberdeen for a year, participating in a program called Independent Living Skills. Casey returned to Watertown after a year and attended Lake Area Technical College. Casey also keeps busy with Special Olympics, participating in track, basketball, and bowling. His family is his biggest cheerleaders. While not busy with all this, Casey enjoys playing Xbox and watching good movies. For those reasons, we are very proud and happy to award Casey with the NDAM 2020 Employee of the Year. Thank you, Casey. We would like to next recognize Bobby Joe Sapir. Bobby Joe was nominated and selected for the Outstanding Transition Services Award because of her extraordinary service to adult individuals with disabilities in transitioning from school to adulthood. Her contributions exemplify exactly what this award honors. 2.5 years ago, Bobby Joe created an 18 to 21-year-old transitional learning center program for students with disabilities to continue their education, job training, independent living skills, and social skills. Even before then, Bobby Joe had been provided transitional services to students with disabilities at the Watertown High School as a special education teacher. She has spent many years working to aid students with disabilities in attaining skills to make the transition to adulthood. The transitional program focuses on teaching students lifelong skills using hands-on real-life experiences that include going to the grocery store to get items for recipes, scheduling rides on transit, doing daily chores around the home, running a convenience store for the school staff, exploring various leisure activities while making their own lunch, assessing community services such as the Prairie Lakes Wellness Center, exploring various jobs and job skills, and working on daily life skills of reading and math activities. Bobby Joe has coordinated her efforts with the community programs aimed at assisting adults with disabilities in attaining employment and living independently as well. She is always searching for new experiences and opportunities to add to the program to continue to make it better. Thank you, Bobby Joe, on behalf of the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities for all you do in providing services for our adults with disabilities in the Watertown community. All right, we will next recognize Cassie McGee. This award is given to an individual with a disability in recognition of outstanding achievements in overcoming a disability and for the promotion of independent living and employment opportunities for other individuals with disabilities. Cassie McGee embodies this award. Cassie is a very good advocate for herself. Cassie worked at a business for 19 years. When Cassie felt that she was not getting the hours that she deserved, Cassie advocated for herself in an attempt to get the business to value her as an employee. When her advocating didn't come up with the results that Cassie agreed with, Cassie moved on to another business and has flourished since. Cassie is very self-sufficient in most areas of her life and does well with it. Cassie lives on her own with her cat, Tazzy Marie, with little supports needed. When Cassie is not advocating for herself in the employment world, she keeps busy with being the flag girl for the American Legion meetings. Cassie brings the flag in and sets it up at the podium before the meeting starts. Cassie participates in Special Olympics, track, bowling, swimming, and softball. Cassie states that she watches the polar plunge but does not participate in it. Cassie likes to hang out with her friends and watch horror movies or go shopping. Cassie also bakes goodies for the holidays to give to her family and friends. Cassie likes to try to keep active as much as possible. For these reasons, Cassie makes an outstanding citizen with a disability.
Thank you, Jamie.
Welcome, Cassie. All right, our next award, we would like to recognize Holiday Inn Express. And I don't think we have anyone here in attendance, but the Holiday Inn Express is being awarded the 2020 Outstanding Employer of the Year. This award is presented to employers for outstanding achievement in improving employment opportunities for people with disabilities. Holiday Inn Express has offered numerous employment opportunities to individuals with various types of disabilities in many different programs. They have employed many individuals working with vocational rehabilitation. They have hosted Project Skills students for several years by providing the students an opportunity to learn skills and gain work experience. The manager, Janice, always says yes when she is called with a request that an individual come to the hotel for trying out a job. Holiday Inn Express believes in giving employees second chances, whether that be rehiring them or giving someone with a poor work history an opportunity to improve their employment experience. They often will let the applicant know if they are hired at the end of the interview. Everyone is trained by Holiday Inn Express staff, and job coaching is welcomed. The staff is friendly and provides positive reinforcements. They accommodate schedules and transportation by avoiding scheduling clients who use transit during hours when transit is not running. But if this does not happen, Holiday Inn Express has and will provide transportation for those employees. If an employee is having a difficult day at work, they are very good about calling the vocational services provider to make them aware of this or ask for assistance. They provide accommodations such as multiple small breaks or scheduling for less hours. They do whatever they can to make it work for all involved. It is great working with Janice and the staff at Holiday Inn Express, and we thank them for the opportunities they provide for the people in the community. All right, thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone.
You're welcome to stay for the next couple hours.
Civics education.
Okay, thank you for that. And the next item on the agenda is authorization for the mayor to sign a letter of intent and sales agreement to purchase property. And I would like to be a little more clear about what that is, that we added a couple items to the agenda just today. The actual letter of intent to sell property. The property is the Wells Fargo Bank next door to City Hall, and the city has come to an agreement that we will hopefully execute here tonight, and the agreement is to purchase the building for $1.3 million. And this is something that has been in the works for about a year. When the idea was first presented to me, Wells Fargo Bank was not for sale at the time, but a former Wells Fargo Bank employee came to me, and he told me I could say his name. It was Charlie Ewalt, and he said it's a beautiful, well-built building, and he saw that we were talking about building a city hall. We had not earmarked, but we had anticipated spending about $5 million on building a city hall, and when I first became mayor, I pushed that back. Didn't think the timing was right to put that much money into a city hall building, but now with the city manager coming on board, we're kind of bursting at the seams here, and this building has some issues, so the timing was right. So I was in touch with Wells Fargo over the last year and working out the details, and we've come to an agreement that instead of $5 million, which is what we were expecting to have to spend on building a new city hall, or $8 million, which was the estimate given to us for an actual proposal, we'll only have to spend probably around $2 to $2.5 million. So there's a savings of millions of dollars to the taxpayers. We'll get a building that's well built and very accessible, and I think it's a win-win for everyone. And so I hope that the council will all support this. So the item on the agenda is authorization for the mayor to sign a letter of intent and the sales agreement to purchase the property for $1.3 million, and to also authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents and write checks for the earnest money and anything else that will come up in association with these agreements.
So moved.
Have a motion by Vilhauer and
Second.
a second by Rademski. And now I would like to ask the council if they have any comments or questions. So,
Mayor, what is the possession date?
that we should close around the end of February, and that gives the people who have safe deposit boxes in the Wells Fargo enough time to get them out. And the employees are moving over to the other branch. And just to say something about Wells Fargo, they've been really wonderful to work with. Banking is done so differently today. People hardly ever go in a bank anymore, and the big building has been more than they needed. And so it's working out from both directions. I'm hoping that it's as good for Wells Fargo as it is for the city of Watertown. I think this is a deal where everyone wins. So hopefully by the end of February, we'll close. Councilman Lallam?
I would just like to point out to the public that's watching this that the reason this hasn't been forward, obviously it's a negotiation with a contract involved, but at the same time, Wells Fargo did not let their employees know that they were looking to move on from that facility as well. It's an opportunity for us to get a building that obviously has some aesthetically pleasing approaches to it as well, and I think it meets the needs of Watertown for years without breaking the bank on a long-term, $5+ million facility. So,
Right, and I have some ideas of how we can spend the money that we save. Anyone else want to make a comment or question? Councilman Vilhauer?
Just a comment, over my career as an accountant, I get in that building many, many times, upstairs, downstairs. That is a beautiful facility, very well built. A contingent of us toured the property after hours one night earlier this spring, and very favorably impressed with it. So I'm excited about what this will mean for us in the way of a city hall going forward.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Lallam?
now this is the agreement in place. Is there contingencies and things of that nature that we have to look at as far as, having someone look at the building and how that's going to work?
Yes, so they're the normal, we'll have an inspection period assuming that the inspection comes out just as we expect. And then there's, you know, of course, the bank is taking over some of the equipment that's in there. They'll take with them some of the things they're leaving, and that's all spelled out in the agreement. And the cash machines, for instance, we have no need for that. So they'll be removing that. But we'll be putting an RFP out in the near future to look for an architect to help us to prepare that building to occupy and hopefully be able to move into it by, you know, we'll get to start our remodel in March and hopefully be able to move in July or June if possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Philhauer,
Enthusiastically, aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Redemski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Oline,
Aye.
Poyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And then the next question that we really haven't tackled on what happens to this building, we haven't got a plan for that yet, but I'm sure over the coming months we'll come up with one. All right, the next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 20-42, an amendment to the zoning designation of PUD planned unit development for Williston Edition.
So moved.
I have a motion by Lallam. And a second by Redemski. And I will ask the Public Works Director, City Engineer Heath Von Eye to tell us about this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of Council, this evening we've got before you a second reading of this zoning amendment. If everybody can see my screen here, I've shared it to Teams. I've got an aerial view of the south side of Lake Compesca. Williston Edition is right here on the southwest corner of the lake, right along Old Highway 139. It's kind of in between the route where South Lake Drive kind of loops around the state land here and is located on the west side of this roadway. The current zoning for this area, for this subdivision, is planned unit development. And what planned unit developments allow for is some degree of flexibility, some latitude in the uses of the property. They oftentimes include mixed uses to some extent. They can sometimes include variances to setback requirements and things of that nature. It's kind of a tool in the toolbox for developers to use when they've got a unique project with unique types of design considerations. Now, the original PUD plan for this area included personal storage, was the intended use, which it has continued to be used as up and through today, and will also continue to be used as after this amendment. What the amendment is proposing is that they are allowed to have residential living units and a select handful of the storage units. So it'd be a combined living/storage facility. The best way we've found as staff to describe the living units in these storage units is really like a row of townhouses that will be configured along the south side of this development in the proposed and limited number of units that the developer is calling for here. And in those units, it will essentially function as a townhouse. On one end of the structure, you'll have the living quarters, and then on the other end, you'll have an oversized attached garage, more or less, where people can store their cars or boats or RVs or things of that nature. The living quarters, of course, would be built to design standards to meet building codes as far as fire separation and things of that nature. And the other thing I wanted to point out is the developer does have specific covenants, which are attached to the council packet. And they show the clear amendments in those covenants that restrict the living quarters to the specified units called out in those covenants. The other units would remain as private storage units. There's no commercial uses allowed in this PUD area, and they don't intend on making any changes along those lines. With that being said, urban planner Brandy Hinton's online with us tonight. I'm not certain, but the developer Scott Munger may also be online with us as well, and we'd be glad to help field any questions.
All right, thank you. Councilman Hoyer.
I guess for me, the only question I had is, will South Lake Drive be extending in between those two spots? I think this came up earlier in the year, just if they would improve the road there or not. But I was just curious if we had an answer to that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Brandy, could you refresh my memory too on how that got left? I know that we preserved some right to declare future right-of-way there if necessary. Is that right, Brandy?
Right, and I'm actually, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to look back here in the files because I know we amended the development agreement, but I cannot remember the details. I'm sorry.
Councilman Lallam.
We did not make them put that road in simply because that is not going to the west further as of this time. Otherwise, the city would have had to maintain that, so we did not make that go all the way through. Just for clarification, I sat through the planning and zoning meeting on this one. I believe there was one opposed and the rest were for. They're very specific as far as what's going to be there, who's going to be allowed. I believe it's 3 units that will be allowed for living area, and the rest will be, they're not contractor shops, they're storage units. So with 2 of them, I believe, being Mr. Munger's personal, that unit 18, I believe, will be his personal one. So they vetted that out. It was probably a good 45-minute conversation. At the end of the day, they agreed to go, I believe it was 5-1 or 6-1, something along those lines.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Councilman Hoyer?
Yeah, I suppose it did. I just remember it was pretty contentious the first time we went over it. I know there was an amendment, so I just wasn't sure if we had decided that the trigger was when they developed to the south of it, or if it was the wave until there is development behind it. So sounds like Councilman Lallam answered that.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Here, I'm sharing that addendum too, if anyone's interested.
Oh, okay. Yes, in the event there's development. Okay. Thank you, Brandy. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll look for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm here. Bill Howard,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I just realized I forgot to open the public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone that would like to speak about this item. If you're online, say request permission to speak. See no one, I will close the public hearing and I will ask the city attorney if we need to redo the vote. Matt, are you on?
No
there?
need.
Okay.
No need.
No need to? Okay, very good. Sorry about that. There's another public hearing. I'll do it right this time. Thank you. Item D is approval of resolution number 20-50, authorizing application for financial assistance from the South Dakota Board of Water and Natural Resources for the primary clarifier number 2 replacement project number 2022 in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000, authorizing the mayor to sign the application and all subsequent pay requests.
Hoyer.
Was that a motion by Hoyer? What did I hear?
I just heard.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Hoyer,
Second.
Second by Bueller.
second by Lallam. Sorry, Bruce, you're slow on the draw.
Okay.
We'll get you next time. And I'll ask Keith to tell us about this one.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This funding request, this is a process in securing funding from the state through the South Dakota Board of Water and Natural Resources for primary clarifier number 2 replacement project. If the council could recall, we're under a design contract with HDR Engineering for design services for a primary clarifier. The existing clarifier is has mid its useful life and is out of commission and is in need of replacement based on a previous analysis and report that was provided to us also by HDR. Essentially, this resolution 20-50 does 3 things. It accomplishes, it approves the submission of an application for financial assistance, and then it designates the mayor as the official that is authorized to execute the application and submit it to the board. And then it also provides the mayor with designation as the authority that's to do all things on behalf of the city, signing, pay request, and in the event that the financial assistance is awarded. So it's those 3 things is what this resolution is accomplishing, and it puts our project in the next step along the lines of securing funding up to the $2.5 million. If you recall, the step prior to this was to actually get the project on the state's water plan, which was approved here in the recent, not too distant past. Mike Berger, the wastewater superintendent, is online with us tonight, and then of course Kristen Bobzine, finance officer. The 3 of us, along with First District, have worked together with this information and can help answer any questions the council might have.
All right, thank you. And before I forget, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. If anyone would like to speak about this issue, please state your name and say permission to speak. Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing and entertain council discussion. Are there any questions or comments? Councilman Lallam?
Hey, Mike, I know you're on the line there. What kind of time frame are we looking on this as far as, when does it start and how does that affect our water clarifying process?
Yes, I think we would be planning on breaking ground in the coming spring, and just as far as the clarification process, the wastewater facility has 2 primary clarifiers, and this one is out of service and then is in this past rehabilitation. So we need one in service all the time. So right now we're in a position where we can't take the primary clarifier number 1 out of service for some of the maintenance activities that we should be doing to it and will be doing to it as soon as we can. And additionally, in a wet event, when the flows come up in the spring in a flood event, you'll need that second clarifier to handle a greater flow when you go through those wet events. So right now we're kind of at a disadvantage when it comes to wet events, that we would perform some non-standard emergency operations to accommodate those flows, and have done so with some difficulty in the past since this clarifier went down. So
Follow up, if I may.
Councilman Lallam?
Mike, what kind of time frame to replace this, and is that a long-term fix? I mean, what's their life expectancy?
Oh, geez, I tell you, well, this one is 60 years old. I guess I couldn't give you an exact life expectancy of it, but I think you'd be looking at something similar to that. I think going forward, this unit is all out of just steel, no stainless steel on the metal mechanisms. 2 components have failed here. Basically, the concrete structure, the concrete has failed, and all of the internal mechanisms, the collector mechanism, and the baffle plates in the center column, all the metal components, that is the machinery that performs the process, all of that, those metal components are exhibiting section loss, which means they've grown thinner over these 60 years or whatever the exact years of service are, and they're thinner, and so they've lost strength. So, but yeah, this particular tank is 60 years old. The tank that we're going forward with replacement would have the metal components would be of a higher grade steel that would probably have which would have a longer lifespan. But just how much you get out of it, I guess I don't have an engineer's report on that.
How long to build the new clarifier?
What's that?
How long would it take to build the new one?
Oh, I think that we would have it done in the course of the year. We break ground in the spring, and I would I don't have a schedule yet on it, but I would say that we would have it. I would hope that we'll certainly have it in service before any wet event the following spring, in like this before the spring of 2022
Thanks, Mike.
or 2021, excuse me.
Any other questions? Councilman Villar?
Mike, one question. I see in looking at part of our packet attachment, there's over 50 applications that were considered in the 2021 water plan. Any concerns on your part that our application won't be accepted?
No, I don't have any concern on that. When they put them on the state water plan, they're comfortable that they're going to be able to meet those requirements. So I think we would have heard something from the Division of Financial and Technical Assistance by now. So I think we'll be okay.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll look for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Bill Howard,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item E is the first reading of ordinance number 20-32, an amendment to Chapter 24.06, subdivision procedure of the revised ordinances of the City of Watertown. There's no action here, but I'll ask the City Engineer, Public Works Director Heath Von Eye to introduce it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a long-awaited amendment to Chapter 24, subdivision procedures. Chapter 24, the ordinance is very closely linked to Chapter 21. 21 is our zoning ordinance, and in simplistic terms, Chapter 21 of zoning tells people what they can do on their property per the zoning laws, and then Chapter 24 subsequently tells them how to do what they're allowed to do. In other words, what's required, what process do you need to go through for permitting, and what improvements are required on that property. So in 2406 specifically, we get into the details of what the review process looks like. And what this amendment does is helps to streamline this process, we feel. Staff feels we've come forward with some good recommendations on how to help streamline that review process. This process amendment has been checked off by what we've been calling the Development Task Force. It's a committee of developers and contractors and local consultant engineers. Chris Shilkin from the Watertown Development Company has been spearheading it as of lately. It's an initiative that the mayor helped kick off either shortly after becoming mayor or sometime thereafter. And together, collectively, we've come up with these recommendations that we've also ran through the Planning Commission, of course, who have voted unanimously for approval of these changes. Again, Brandy Hanton, Urban Planners Online. Also online is Stacy Bungard, the Community Development Manager. And Chris is present here with us in the crowd, and we'd love to help answer any questions that the council might have or highlight any of the changes you might feel you want us to go over or highlight with you here this evening.
Any questions, folks? Councilman Villar?
Heath, there's also a couple of council members involved in that task force as well. And I just want to clarify, does this change anything relative to the role of the council in the entire process?
The biggest change, as far as any effects to the council, off the cuff, I don't believe it will change any impact as far as what the council sees. The biggest change that's occurring is it's amending when the Planning Commission sees a plan from a developer. And right now they take a preliminary plan to the Planning Commission for approval, and that does not come forward to council. The change is that will become a concept plan that they're bringing forth to the Planning Commission. And again, that still will not come forward to the council either.
Variances, though. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, any variations or variances to the design standards, it's required that they are identified at the time of the concept plan so that they can be vetted by the Planning Commission. And I don't recall, Mayor or Brandy, somebody could recall my memory, or help me with my memory here. Those variances then would just be brought forward to council for information purposes, I believe. Is that how we had left that?
Yeah, it's not just design standards, though. If there's a variance from our subdivision requirements, the applicant needs to let the plan commission know. And it goes through a review process knowing full well that whatever the proposed variance is, what it is that they're asking for a change on upfront. So as soon as they know it. So it has a process for approval. Councilman Billhauer?
I know there was a fair amount of discussion before and at the planning commission level as far as what constitutes a minor change versus a major change when a concept plan is approved. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit, Heath?
Yes, I would, and actually I'll defer to Brandy if she could pull that up and in her draft information and talk through that like we did at the planning commission level, if you could, Brandy.
Yes. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, nope. It's not allowing. 1 second here. Okay. So here, so when you're talking about the, okay, so the effective period of the concept plan and the amendments, and then this is where it talks about what a minor change and a major change will be. But do you guys want me to take a step back and just talk about kind of how the process will look altogether?
Sure.
Yeah, if you want to give a brief paraphrasing of that, Brandy, that'd be great.
Okay. So like Heath had said, what we did, the main thing here that we're changing is instead of the preliminary plan going to the plan commission after the developer has put a lot of time and money into a design before even the plan commission is seeing it, it's reviewed by the design review team. But just by when they finally, I'm getting static. Can you guys hear that?
I can't hear it.
No, clear here.
Okay, that's just bothering me then. So then what we're doing, just so it can get in front of the plan commission and there can be more input before there's a lot of time spent on a development, is that we're asking for more requirements for a concept plan than we did before. And here you can see the things that we've added to what needs to be a part of a concept plan. And then so this plan is what will go to plan commission for approval with a public hearing. And then the preliminary plan and the construction plans and platting, all of that will be taken care of administratively and after it's being reviewed by the design review team. And the design review team consists of multiple staff of different departments that all are divisions and departments that all play a role with the developments. So then so if these are where the minor and major changes is spelled out, once the concept plan is approved by the plan commission, then the minor changes are a change in the local street pattern, street name, lot lines, development phases, subdivision name, rights of way widths, all of that. You guys can read that, I think, if you can see my screen. And then the major changes may include the change in arterial or collector street pattern, proposed variances, as the mayor had mentioned, drainage ways or detention pond location. And so those variances too is something that they are going to have to tell up front. And then it's something that we're gonna have to look as far as our engineering design standards and just design requirements in Title 21 altogether before the plan commission would want to recommend approval or actually approve that concept plan. And then the prelim plan, once that concept plan is approved by the plan commission, then it goes on to the preliminary plan and the construction plan steps as we had before. It just is the timing difference of when the plan commission is seeing it and being able to provide input at a more large scheme of what's going on instead of getting into the engineering technical details.
All right, thank you.
Any questions with that? Sorry if that was confusing.
Councilman Villar?
A follow-up on that, Brandy or Heath. You know, I know the developers were, you know, very much in favor of this change. The planning commission was. Question I've got is there any concern on the part of staff that we're, or us as council, that we're putting more burden on staff or more authority in staff's hand, or is it actually going to facilitate your process? I guess I'd like a comment from Heath or you, Brandy, on what I'm trying to ask here.
No, that's great consideration, Councilman Vilhauer. I think it's important to weigh into anytime we're making a substantial change like this. I'm confident at a staff level, the way these amendments are proposed would help streamline the process. It gives the appropriate level of checkoffs up front from the elected bodies, the Planning Commission in particular, and it does give a certain level of discernment for staff, whether it be the community development manager or myself as the city engineer, public works director, for discerning certain things like when it comes to minor or major changes. But I think that together, the training that both Stacy and I have and the experience that the staff has, that we can discern those things and check those off appropriately and not be put into too difficult of a position by any means. In relation to other processes that we've also carried out in other communities, I think that this would be pretty straightforward and customary to those processes that were similar and in comparisons.
Thanks, Heath.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Heath and Brandy. Item F is the first reading of ordinance number 20-44, an amendment to subsection 1 of section 2.0118 of the revised ordinances of the city of Watertown to make available 4 additional types of alcoholic beverage licenses. And no action on this one either, but I will ask City Attorney Matt Roby to tell us what's going on here.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, as you'll recall, a few weeks ago, we considered a temporary liquor license transfer for an event that was a wedding that was occurring in an industrial zone, and it sparked the conversation about this special event licensing. And I mentioned at the time that there was an additional category of special event license that the city, for some reason, did not adopt when special event licenses came into being in 2010. And so after that conversation, I took it back to the drawing board here and brought forth this ordinance amendment that would add in the special event on sale license, which would allow a temporary license for the sale of liquor, hard alcohol. But also what you have in front of you adds 3 additional categories of special event licenses that were that have been added in the last few years by the legislature. And these last 3 categories are meant to account for circumstances where the beverages are donated. And so I think the best example would be a charity auction where somebody donated 3 or 4 bottles of wine or something like that to be auctioned off as part of a silent auction. I think that was the kind of the intention there. So those 3 categories, 1 for each type of alcohol, malt beverage, wine, and liquor. So that's the proposed ordinance change, and would look for any feedback from the council.
Okay, thank you. Is there any feedback? Anybody have any questions up front? Oh, they're letting you off easy, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Item G is authorization for the police department to backfill a police officer position due to patrol officer on military leave for 1 year. I do need action on this.
So moved.
A motion by Lallam and a second by Rademski, and I believe we have Assistant Chief Tim Toomey online to talk about this.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do come before you today to ask for authorization to backfill position. Officer Juan Flores has been ordered to about a year-long deployment where he's going to become a combat medic. So we're going to be without him for approximately a year. His orders are from November 27th to October 10th, and he assures me once he returns, he'll have another 30 days to do after that. So we don't expect to have him back till December or January of next year. We understand that this would be a temporary position, and if he does return early, that position would end. We also anticipate 2 retirements in 2021. So once that happens, we're anticipating somewhere before April or about April. We would only fill one of those positions. The reason behind that is it takes about 5 months to train a officer who's not certified. So if we, even if we waited, we wouldn't be any further ahead. So once those retirements happen, we'll only request to replace that one. Does that make sense?
Yep. All right, thank you. Any questions, Council? Seems pretty straightforward. Not seeing any questions. All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Bill Howard,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademsky,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item H is authorization for the police department to purchase 2 cameras for $3,104.90 and 13 portable radios for $37,871.99 using COVID relief fund dollars previously awarded to the city of Watertown.
So moved, Hoyer.
Motion by
Second,
Hoyer.
Albertson.
Albertson,
Second, Albertson.
second by Albertson, and I'll ask Assistant Chief Toomey to tell us about this one.
Thanks, Mayor. This one is, as you know, the police department filled 4 key positions in the COVID task force, as well as many of the meetings were taking place in our community room. We felt to reduce those numbers, we actually borrowed a camera from the fire department so we could have team meetings. That turned out to be invaluable, especially with training for our officers. A lot of that went virtual. So these cameras that we're asking would be used in times of pandemic as well as many, many other times. So we feel this is an appropriate use of those funds. We have been in contact with Monty Kramer, who's the loan coordinator, and maybe Kristen can fill you more in on who that is, but he does support the purchase of the cameras as well as the portable radios. Those radios, it will replace 13 radios. As most of you probably already know, by 2023, we have to be P25 compliant, and that's just digitally for interoperability among other agencies, but the state is requiring us to be compliant. Our current radios are not compliant, so that will help reduce the number of radios that we need by 2023, and that would ensure seamless communication during a pandemic or any emergency. So we're just asking authorization to use those funds for those purposes.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Council? Councilman Rademsky.
Those radios are not quite $3,000 a piece.
Correct.
What's life expectancy of those?
Well, our current radios are over 10 years old now. It's a Motorola radio. I expect them to be 10 to 15 years at least.
Will that be Motorola brand again also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Hoyer?
I'll just echo, those Motorola radios are fantastic. I mean, they're super durable. I've used them on the military side as well. They're one of the most reliable things you can have on hand. So easy, yes.
All right, thank you. Councilman Lallam?
Tim, on those, who all has those radios, or who do they go to?
They go from every member, any sworn member of our police department, all the way from the chief down to our reserve officers.
So they're kind of a pool type radio?
Pardon me?
They're a pool radio. They kind of sit at the station and then they hand them out as needed?
No, they're actually issued to each one of us so that, they're charged at night and used during when they're on duty. So each sworn member has their own radio that they're responsible for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Vilhar?
I got a question for Kristen. Where are we at as far as utilization of our CARES funding? I mean, we're not anywhere near close to utilizing everything that we've been allocated, have we? Or are we?
We're getting close. I've actually, I think I've taken in about $3.2 million up to date right now. So the reason that, if you remember, I think it was the last council meeting, the fire department asked for the same thing to cover the radios. The biggest reason that we're kind of coming forward to ask is these are unbudgeted purchases. So essentially this is the council giving those departments kind of the go ahead to purchase something that wasn't intended to be purchased. The majority of the COVID relief fund is being spent on public safety personnel. So once we were told by the state that these would be eligible, it seemed like a good use of the dollars. I was also contacted by the state to kind of give a projection of if the city of Watertown would need any more funding. So having items like this kind of come into play, there is a potential that if there are dollars left and we as a city still have a need, we can incorporate and maybe ask for more. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, you said about 3.2 million. What were we allocated though? I thought it was a little over 5 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's only through September payroll. So
Okay,
I still have October, November, and December payroll, and then with some of our other purchases that we've had.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, Kristen.
So, yep.
All right, Councilman Albertson?
Question for Tim. Thanks, Mayor. Question for Tim. If you're buying 13 new radios, does that mean you have 27 that are still outdated, or are the other 27 up to speed, or why did you not ask for 40 when you were in this CARES Act money?
Great question. Thanks, Dan. No, we have been slowly replacing those through different grants for the last few years. We actually are 17 radios short right now, but when communicating with Monty Kramer from the state, he landed on the $36,000 range for what he was comfortable supporting. So that's why we asked for that many.
All right. Anyone else? Good questions. All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Vilhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank
Thank
you. Item I is approval of alcoholic beverage license renewals for calendar year 2021. Package off-sale liquor, retail on-sale liquor, retail on-off-sale wine, and cider. We have a motion by Lalum
Second.
and a second by Rademski, and I'll ask the finance officer, Kristen Bobzien, to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor. It is the time for the annual renewal of the alcoholic beverage licenses. It was in the packet, the off-sale liquor, on-sale liquor, and then the on-off wine and cider. These are all the licenses that are coming up for renewal, and none of these would have had a violation or anything. So it's just a straightforward renewal for the annual period of 2021. I can answer any questions if there are any.
Okay. And I bet we'll have some recusals. Anybody want to make a comment? Councilman Hoyer?
Mayor, I'll have to recuse myself from this issue.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Roby?
I will recuse myself as well.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Any questions about this or comments? Councilman Lalum?
Kristen, on these are all the people that have no violations, and it always comes at another meeting where we have the people that have violations that come in. Are we expecting any of that?
Nope, there shouldn't be any separate public hearing for any of these licenses. These are all just straightforward renewals.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, Councilman Vilhauer?
Chris, you would explain why this has typically been a consent agenda item in the past, if I'm not mistaken, why we're seeing it as a regular agenda item now?
It's been requested by some of the other council members to move it to the regular agenda just so that they don't have to recuse themselves from all the items on the consent agenda.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good plan. Anyone else? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Bill Howard?
Aye.
Okay, and then Rademski?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Lallam?
Aye.
Pauline?
Aye.
Bueller?
Aye.
Albertson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item J is approval of resolution number 20-54, authorizing the execution and terms of a memorandum of understanding, developer agreement, and a bond anticipation note and retention of professionals.
So moved.
I have a motion by Vilhauer
Second.
and a second by Lallam. And I understand we have some counsel here, but I'll let our city attorney kick this off.
Thanks, Mayor. Over the last few months, we've been in discussions with the Watertown Development Company to explore options that would allow the city to facilitate or participate in financing for tax increment financing districts. The few that are kind of in the pipeline here, and the one that was just recently approved for Generations on First. We were also exploring ways to do that without with limiting the effect of limiting the impact on our constitutional debt limit. And so in some discussions and with some phone calls, we ended up talking to Mr. Todd Meyer Henry, who is on the phone with us this evening. Todd is of the Meyer Henry Sargent Law Firm in Sioux Falls, and he's got over 30 plus years of public financing experience. And so we've engaged Todd to help us with this process, and he's going to explain the resolution and the funding mechanism that's being proposed this evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You
Okay.
can.
To start with, maybe I just go over how the two types of tax increment financing works. The original type was that the city would issue bonds, take the proceeds, and use those proceeds as the tax increment project plan stated. And those bonds constituted constitutional debt and were part of your first 5% of constitutional debt. Well, a number of years ago, a number of cities came to me and to some underwriters and said, you know, this does not work real well. We would like you to go in and write some statutes so that we could modify it and do it similar to some other states. And we call these developer TIFs. And what developer TIFs are is the city does not issue bonds, but they enter into an agreement, a developer's agreement, where they agree that they'll pass through any tax increment to the developer, and that the developer can go get their own financing with their own bank. And the way I wrote this wrote the new statute, in reality, the developer's agreement is an obligation to pay money at a future date, which is basically just passing through the tax increment. And it technically constitutes a bond, but it's not an obligation of the city. Their only obligation is pass through tax increment. So Matt got on the phone and said, you know, we would like to figure out a way which we could lower the, and sorry, Kristen also is on the phone, to lower the amount of the borrowing costs during that period when you construct your improvements and before your tax increment goes on. And so this, what we decided is a possibility is we would issue bond anticipation notes, and the city would borrow money temporarily. Bond anticipation notes are a maximum of 3 years, and at the end of those 3 years, or somewhere in the middle, the Watertown Development Company would enter into the developers agreement, go to the local bank, borrow enough money to pay back the bond anticipation note. And what that would do is during the 3-year period, you'd have tax exempt interest, which is lower. And when they take it out, then it's just an obligation between Watertown Development Company and the bank. And really, it's just a private loan. And at that point into the future, it's all the city of Watertown does is when they get the tax increment payment from the county, they forward it on. They don't guarantee that it's enough, and they'll only agree to a certain amount of time that they'll pass that through, and for a dollar amount and an imputed interest. And so what this resolution does is, number one, it approves in section 2 a memorandum of understanding, which is we're going to enter into the city is going to enter into agreement with the Watertown Development Company to basically say this is what we're going to do and how this process works. Then the city, since if they pass this resolution, have approved a developers agreement, they can then issue a bond anticipation note, go to probably the same financial institution that's going to loan to Watertown Development Company the amount of money to do the improvements, and they will then pay off the bond anticipation note when they enter into the developers agreement. And so it's a tax exempt to taxable transaction, and this resolution approves the three memorandum, the memorandum, the developers agreement, bond anticipation note. Those are the 3 documents that we need to do in order to accomplish this structure.
Okay, very good. So is there an inherent risk to the city that is greater for this type of an agreement?
No. The state was very wise. The only obligation that the city has under tax increment district is to collect the tax increment. And the memorandum of understanding is a document that's saying that the Watertown Development Company is going to go out and get a loan. And so what we will have before we ever issue the bond anticipation note, we will have a commitment from the bank who will commit to buy, it'll be the same institution, buy the same bond anticipation note, and then they'll just turn it around when the construction of the improvements are done with their note with the Watertown Development Corporation, which I assume will be secured by whatever the bank determines, but it's all that the city will be liable for is to collect the tax increment from the county and pass it through.
But this
if the property owner doesn't pay the taxes and the treasurer doesn't send the city any money, then there's no duty that year until somebody pays the taxes.
So does this allow for a lower interest rate then for the developer?
During that interim period,
Yeah.
the bond anticipation note is the lower interest rate, and they'll have to negotiate their longer term bank borrowing with the bank, and that will depend on probably the underlying who is improving the property owner and developer who is improving the land, and then what the Watertown Development Company, what their role will be in, will they be guaranteeing, but that will be up to the underwriting at the financial institution, the bank.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Council, questions? Councilman Vilhauer?
A follow-up to what you just asked a while ago, Mayor, as far as risk to the city, that was answered to my satisfaction. Also want to clarify, as far as any kind of effect on the city's cash flow throughout this whole process. I mean, as I understand, there is not, but can you clarify that?
State statute prohibits the city to use any other funds other than tax increment to pay any tax increment obligation. So you do not have the power to guarantee or use any other funds other than the tax increment.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm looking at, I don't want to put you on the spot, Chris. I mean, you've been an integral part of this from the get-go regarding the development company. Is this being laid out like you had envisioned when you were involved in the discussion with us?
Chris Shilkin, Watertown Development Company. Yes, we had to find a tool that allowed us to get from point A to point B when banks would come in to finance a TIF project, and they are really comfortable once the projects are built. So we had to get from point A to point B, and visiting with Matt and Kristen and others and Todd here, that we wanted to find a tool that allowed to do that without putting burden on, the sales tax collection or any other things that have been brought up. So I think this is it. We don't know how banks will respond. Todd's had a lot of history here, but I think we'll find out once this package goes out to see what kind of interest there is in something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks, Chris.
seems clever. I hope it works. Other questions or comments? See none, I'll call for action here. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please. Kristen?
Bildhauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademsky,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Helene,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. So item K is review of the continued necessity of resolution number 20-15, declaring an emergency concerning the pandemic outbreak of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, and providing for responsive measures related to the operations of the city and the protection of public health. And I sensed that there's a change going on. Our numbers were going up and or very rapidly. And we're hearing all around the country that communities and states are taking extra action to curb the growth of coronavirus in their communities and states. And so I reached out to the medical advisors that are part of our incident command team, the unified commanders who are in the medical field, and asked how they're doing, if they thought that it was time for us to take any further steps than what we were doing. And the response was positive, that yes, we should be doing more. And this is a medical recommendation for a public health emergency that we're taking here, and we're not looking for a popular opinion about whether masks are needed or not, but we're seeing that there's new research showing stronger evidence that masks do help to control the spread of the virus. The CDC just made new recommendations on wearing of masks, and they ask all Americans to wear masks. And so the unified commanders met today to discuss whether or not to make a recommendation to the city council on a mask mandate. And the unified commanders voted 6-1 to recommend a mask mandate as follows. And I'll just read it. Be it further resolved that the mayor and the city council hereby declare that all people in Watertown who are able to wear a mask are required to wear one indoors, outdoors, and in vehicles whenever it is not possible to maintain 6 feet distance from any other non-cohabitant person, except while eating or drinking. Because there are valid and undetectable reasons for not wearing a mask, no penalty for non-compliance will be assessed, nor will the city be responsible for enforcement at this time. This mandate will take effect immediately upon passage and will automatically expire at the first meeting of the City Council in the year 2021, unless extended. And so of the 7 unified commanders, 6 voted in favor and 1 was opposed. And so that's what we have here. And I did invite the unified commanders, and also Dr. Sene, who is a pulmonologist or a lung specialist with Prairie Prairie Lakes healthcare system to be available if anyone had any questions for them in order to make a decision on whether or not to adopt this resolution. And the question before the council today is whether or not to follow the recommendation of the Unified Command Team in adopting a mask mandate that has, at this time, no penalty for noncompliance. And some of the things, like someone may have just recovered from COVID and they're in their period of immunity, we're not going to ask them. Maybe someone has an anxiety disorder, cannot wear a mask. We're not going to ask them. Maybe they're playing basketball and it's too hard at that moment to wear a mask. We're not going to chase after them. We're just asking everyone who can wear a mask to wear a mask. And this is a little stronger than what we're doing now, which is just encouraging that. This is passing a law, and it is our belief that respect for the rule of law will cause more people to wear masks. And we know that if more people wear masks, fewer people will get sick. And if fewer people get sick, fewer people will die. So there is a potential for goodness to come out of this. It's not guaranteed that this will make a difference, but the science and evidence from studies that are ongoing shows that it's very likely that having this in place will make a difference, a positive difference in reducing the spread of virus in our community. So I've put it out there, but it would take a council member to make a motion to that effect in order for this to pass or be considered. Councilman Hoyer?
I guess, are we looking for a motion on this, or
Yes.
are we just discussing it at this point?
We're
Okay,
looking for a motion.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion. That's fine.
Okay, we have a motion by Hoyer. Is there a second?
Manti, I'll second it.
We have a second by Manti. And now I'll entertain discussion. Councilman Albertson?
Thanks, Mayor. I really do like the idea of the mask. I wonder, I know the motion's already been made, but I wonder if it's going to have any teeth, though, if there isn't any penalty. You know, we've gone through seat belts and people didn't pay much attention. We put $25 on it and now people pay more attention, and it's saved lots and lots of lives, proven. We've had other examples of where when we don't have a penalty like texting, then people text, but when they put the penalty on it, and I'm not looking for more work for the police officers, trust me, but I do want this to have some teeth, and I would love to say people are going to just do it. I think they would be more attuned to do it if there would be a penalty with it, and I'll just be quiet.
Okay, thank you. And I think that we're seeing that these types of mandates in our state have been very difficult. The councils have struggled to get consensus on that part about enforcement. And actually, right after the incident command meeting today, I was on a conference call with the South Dakota mayors, and I learned that other communities in our state have already enacted or are about to consider very similar types of actions. The city of Aberdeen already has a similar action in place. Huron is considering one as we speak tonight, a no penalty mandate. Sioux Falls will be voting on a no penalty mandate tomorrow. Vermilion has a different regulation which requires all businesses to post signs saying masks are expected. And their mayor says that people are complying for the most part. And Rapid City is doing a press conference tomorrow to announce that personal responsibility is failing, and they have enough votes now to pass a mandate, so they'll be moving forward with it. I would say if we try to get into a penalty on this, it might delay the passage, and I don't think we have time to wait. And I think that if it goes in without penalty today, we don't know for sure if that will make a difference, but there's a gut feeling that people will obey the rule of law and that there might be some positive change. If not, we can always assess a penalty at a later date. So I see there's lots of hands up. Councilman Hoyer?
Thank you, Mayor. So here's the thing. I feel like at this point, putting teeth on it isn't specifically necessary. I agree with you that I think it's just going to delay getting it through. But the other side of it is that we're trying to respect people in the sense that they can make this decision on their own. My big thing with it is that we finally got to the point where we have our medical professionals, our local medical professionals, who are the ones that are saying we need to start doing this. They're starting to see more numbers than we'd like to see. It's going to get tight. We're about to go into winter. I think this just puts a little more onus on it that we need to start actually following it. I personally don't love wearing a mask. I think many of us don't. But at this point, it's just a social responsibility. And I just feel like this is that compromise of if we don't want to head down a path that might lead to full shutdown or even just stay-at-home orders, that this is a compromise that we can at least make to show our support for our local medical staff, our local nurses, our local doctors, our teaching professionals who already have to wear a mask every day when they go into work. All those individuals, just, I don't know, just to show that support to them, because they're the ones that are already on the front lines of this thing. It's not us. And honestly, I think this is the least we can do for them to show our support in what they're trying to combat right now. So I know none of us want to see the schools closed. We don't want to see any slowing of the economy or anything. So I think that this is a really healthy, wise, and well-informed decision to go down this path, just doing our part. You know, again, there's not a ton of teeth to it. So if you're that stubborn, I guess, then you can make your own excuse. But I think it's a good call to arms that, you know, we're going into the winter. We need to take this thing a little more seriously. We're going to be indoors a lot more. So let's do what we can to slow it down and, you know, just try to be responsible about it. I think it's the least we can do for all those people that are dealing with it every day.
All right, thank you, Councilman. I just got a message that the Harrisburg School District just passed a mask mandate tonight. Councilman Roby?
Thank you, Mayor. This is really an unprecedented situation. It's something we've never had to deal with before. You know, we always look to past precedents to help us make decisions, and we don't have any past precedents on this one. I first got wind that we were looking at doing this probably noon on Saturday, and I have put a tremendous amount of time into talking to people over the weekend and throughout the day, trying to get a good handle on where I thought we should go with this. What other communities do, we oftentimes look to them for examples as well. Doesn't mean what we should do, what they do, but we need to depend on what our people tell us, et cetera. I would add to what the mayor said that Aberdeen, I think back about early November, they did pass a resolution about mask wearing. And then I went online and I watched a couple council meetings from other communities. I watched one of the Brookings council meetings. It was about a couple hours long. They had over 250 people in the room on that one. I watched the Sioux Falls meeting from last week. That was actually a very good one to watch because it was 3.5 hours on that topic. And 29 citizens spoke to the podium. I couldn't see who was all in the room, but it appeared they had a pretty good crowd, but a very good debate. And, you know, their ordinance, by the way, it failed 4-4. The mayor broke the tie. I believe, and I've heard they're going to bring that back again. So the people I spoke with, very much a varied group. People in the medical industry, medical professionals, business people, many others, a lot of different viewpoints on masks. And I heard comments along the lines that some said they're only about 2% effective. Some said it's the most effective thing that you can do. So my opinion is this. I think everybody should wear a mask when you can. We have a lot of businesses that require it. I'm respectful of that. We require it in our business at City Hall, where you have to have a mask to be in City Hall. The downside to wearing the mask is at most a minor convenience. The upside is you can protect yourself or protect others. And again, it's such a small sacrifice. I think we ought to really, people should be wearing masks. So my opinion again is masks are helpful. They are one of the key elements of what I call a layered approach in conjunction with, social distancing and sanitizing. So I'm in favor of encouraging people to wear masks. Now, our medical community is asking for help. I think we need to listen to that call, and I know we all agree with that. I have a couple comments, though. I think what we have in front of us is more of a resolution than an ordinance. And I don't want to be critical of whoever authored it, but it really is more of a resolution than an ordinance. This is a very emotional issue. And believe me, I saw it in the replays of the other council meetings from other communities. I read in one of the articles from Aberdeen, it was the most divisive issue that person's ever faced in 20 years of city government. So there's three ways we can address this. You can shame people into doing it, and that's not going to work. You can force people to do it like we are with an ordinance, or you can try and convince people it's the right thing to do. In this very unique situation, my preference is the third option. I'd like to convince people they should be doing this. I think this scenario better plays out when we pass a resolution supporting our healthcare community, our healthcare workers, and public safety, and we specifically address as part of that mask wearing. I then think we should follow up with a media blitz of advertising, the newspaper, radio, social media, posters in public and private places to get everybody on board. I think, what we're trying to do is get people to wear masks. And what's the best way we can do that in short order? I think to get the citizens of Watertown in mask wearing mode, I prefer this method. We should try and make this a team atmosphere versus we're going to force you to do it. So we want community participation and we want results. We want to keep our citizens safe. We want to support our healthcare workers and keep them safe. I think if we rally as a community, we can do this. I think that's the preferred method to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, this is a resolution. It's part of our resolution. It's a addition to it. So, Councilwoman Manti?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to repeat what's all been said because they were really good points. So I'm going to just throw in a few more of my own. I agree that this is a thing we can do for our healthcare community and for our community in general, and I believe that we can rally the city as a team. I think if people look at it this way, Don referenced the layered approach, and there was a really cute but very effective visual on the COVID website that had that Swiss cheese. I'm going to turn my camera on so that at least you know who's talking. Anyway, the Swiss cheese, and each layer had a hole in it, but when you put them all together, they made a more solid entity. So, if you have the mask wearing and as Don said, the hygiene, whatever, and you move that along and you keep putting those all together along with what I think we can and have been doing as community leaders, and that's support businesses, support people who are impacted by this, and you put all of those things together, and I think you have a more solid chance, if you want to say that, against having this virus continually increase. I think anger and rants and politics, all those kind of things just don't solve anything. They don't do anything for anybody. But I think that if people understand that if they get on board with this, we're going to make it so that, if the numbers keep increasing, you're eventually going to get businesses that don't feel comfortable protecting themselves or their staff anymore, and they may choose to close even on their own. How many teachers are going to get sick, and how many substitute teachers do we have to go through until we get to the point where we don't know what our kids are going to be able to do? Putting the kids back home is a strain on the family. If you just look at it as like Don said, a small way that we can do to prevent all these other things, right now in our state, the people over 70 only make up 10% of all the cases in the state. And people under 40 make up 50% of all the cases. And yet there's 11 deaths in that 50% of people under 40. There are 491 deaths in the people over 70. So my message there is for younger people to say, hey, there's a lot I can do to change my habits and my pattern of behavior and help make sure that this statistic doesn't keep growing like this. And that's a way for us to team around, you know, get Grandma and Grandpa safe. So, you know, we fought seatbelts like this in the 80s. You know, everybody, you know, didn't want a seatbelt. It was our responsibility to buckle up, not the government's. But what are we proving now? Everybody buckles up and it's really safe. So as the information continues to come out, I think it is leaning towards this, as long as it's put in with all the other things. And my last thing I'd like to add is, in addition to the public service announcements and the posters or whatever, can we please put stuff in there about how to correctly wear a mask? I think if I see any more people with their noses hanging out of their masks and think they're doing okay, I probably will have to, you know, get a little bit upset. So anyway, that's my done rambling.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, Councilman Holeen.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 questions. One, I guess, would be for maybe you or Matt. And the first question would be, what effect, if any, does this have on the school system here in Watertown?
I would say that the school district can decide for themselves. We're making a very strong statement. But there's that caveat in there that says because there are valid and undetectable reasons for not wearing a mask, no penalty. So we honor if they have a different plan, that could be a valid reason for not wearing a mask because they're doing something different. I don't know what they're doing, but it could be different.
So, in other words, we're not superseding their autonomy on this matter. Okay. Second question would also be for you or any of the members of the Unified Command there. How was the date of the first council meeting in 2021 decided upon?
I put that in because of the CEO of our Prairie Lakes Healthcare System told me that some of the models show that our numbers are going to keep increasing until January. And so I just threw that out there. If you want to change the date, that's perfectly fine. It can change whatever you like on this, but some of the models do show that the exponential increase keeps going until, you know, into January. So we revisit this every council meeting, and if we find that it's the middle of December and we're back down into the 30 to 40 active cases instead of 500 that we are now, maybe we can back that date off. But I just put it in there because that was the modeled projection of how long cases will continue to go up.
Okay, well, thank you for the answers. I'll let other people ask some questions and then come back, maybe talk a little bit more. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bueller?
Thank you, Mayor. I just think we all have to listen to these medical experts, the science that goes along with this, the folks that study this. I don't know that a lot of folks would disagree with the fact that this is airborne and there are the droplets that people can breathe in, and it just makes sense to me that one of those layered approaches being masks would help curtail anyone getting sick from that. It would certainly help, I would have to believe. You know, I think we have to really consider our medical professionals and their safety. And also, I think a big one, and Beth kind of alluded to this earlier, our seniors, the elderly folks that we've got, you know, in assisted living, nursing homes, those kinds of places. You know, that gets in there typically through employees that are exposed to it in the public. You know, to me, this isn't a political issue. It's honestly, you could say it's a life or death issue for how we move forward and how we handle this. And like Don alluded to, and I agree with this 100%. I think that this is something that we need to communicate and look at this as a team, our community, to have that responsibility and to try to do this, to try to use these things. But, you know, what can we do to, even if, and this gets a little, I guess this gets a little dicey if we talk about taxpayer dollars to communicate this, but I think it's important, really important, that we do everything we can right now to convince the folks in our community to do the best they can with this minor inconvenience. You know, we're kind of on the cusp of a vaccine, it would seem. And I just think that, you know, to call this a mandate, if you're not enforcing this, to me, it's not really a mandate. You know, you can smoke and mirror that and say it's a mandate and hope everybody falls in line. But I think, yeah, the resolution, I think, is a good idea. If we all fall into and communicate the same thing, if we all are, hopefully we're all in agreement that we could put together a resolution to try to get folks to do the right thing. But yeah, I think I would support communication, extra communication, and also I would support a resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I do use the word resolution or mandate in the resolution that I proposed, but we could strike that word mandate if someone wanted to modify the motion and just replace it with the word resolution. And I just got a note that Huron City Council passed its mask mandate tonight, 5-0. And if I remember correctly, theirs was without penalty as well. And I think that's kind of the path that the cities seem to be taking. Let's see, who's next? Councilman Roby?
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of points. I want to reiterate something I said earlier. You can shame people to do it, you can force people to do it, or you can convince them to do it. I want to convince people to do it. That's why, looking at the current resolution, I was expecting an ordinance tonight, but this is a resolution. I think mandate should be taken out of there, and I think are required should be taken out of there. This is a resolution, which is a statement of position. I don't think you can require somebody in a statement of position to do that. I think this is an expression of opinion and support that we can follow up with further communications. But I think if you have the mandate and you have the required word in there, now you're back to forcing people to do it.
Well, I think that's the idea. We want, if they can, we want people to do it. And if you take out required, then that really, I mean, this is pretty milquetoast with no penalty. If you take away the word required, then there's really nothing left. Councilman Vilhauer?
I agree completely. Don, you were one step ahead of me in this. With that word required in there, I've got a tough time supporting this. I could use strongly encourage. I mean, I strongly believe in the mask. I wear a mask. God bless our medical community. But requiring people, shaming people into wearing masks is not going to accomplish what we hope to do. I don't know what the percentage is of people that are currently wearing masks. I mean, there's getting to be more and more all the time. But this requirement, to me, is not going to significantly increase the number of people that are going to be wearing a mask. I'm not insensitive to this. We need to take this seriously. Personally, I've had a daughter, a sister, and a nephew that have either had or are recovering from COVID. But I cannot support what we call a resolution, ordinance, or whatever it is. I've got a very hard time supporting anything that is going to require us to wear a mask. So I would say are strongly encouraged to wear one indoors, and in that last sentence, this resolution will take effect immediately, is where I'm coming down on this.
Councilman Radomski?
Just a quick question for the medical professionals out there. I was just curious as to what a year ago from now, to this point in time, what do our influenza A numbers look like? Have they increased from last year to this year? And what about the H1N1? Has that decreased or increased at this point in time from last year to this year? And the other thing too is I have just come off of COVID. I tested positive for COVID 2 weeks ago, and I wear a mask 10 hours a day at my one job and then 2 hours a day at my other job, and I go home pretty much after that, and I still contracted it. And I guess from working in a factory, from standpoint of working in a factory, and this summer when it was hot out, you know, wrap around sunglasses, safety glasses, and a bump cap, it's not always a piece of cake to wear a mask for 12 hours a day. You know, I expect, you know, I would rather see us strongly encourage it than force people to wear this. That's where I sit on it. I would strongly encourage everybody that feels at risk to wear it. If you're out, wear a mask, you know, but I just can't seem to force people to do it. I think at some point in time, some people need to, you know, decide on what way is best for them to protect themselves.
Okay, thank you. And you had a question for the medical community. I see Dr. Dan Riefenberger is online, and we also have Dr. Sven Sene online. The two doctors, either of you willing to make a statement, or Cindy Midland from Sanford?
This is Dr. Dan's hopping on. I'll let him talk first.
Okay. I will just say first, as far as anything of the data of AIDS or H1N1, I have no idea what any of that is. When it comes to strongly encouraging a mask, I guess I'm confused as to how is that any different than what has already been going on for the last 9 months. That's already been happening. People are not doing it. I think everybody needs to have a step in our world once and see what it's like and have a little bit of an idea of what we're going through and what we're doing to take care of them when people need to do something more themselves to not only help themselves, but to help us. We're doing everything we can. All we're doing is asking for help on the other end. I think she had sent the articles that we had sent. Had my statistics on there, benefits of the mask. Unless there's something else other than strongly encouraged, we're not doing anything different than already is being done. That's my opinion.
Do you think we need to leave the word require?
I think if you don't say something stronger with it, it is no different than what we're already doing. It's on TV all the time. There's commercials on there all the time about wearing a mask. What's different that we're going to do here in Watertown that people aren't already seeing it? They're just not doing it. We had better response on some of this in April when we had numbers that weren't even in the teens yet. And now we're having thousands every day, and nobody cares.
I think part of the problem is that the people who are not medical professionals have no idea. We're not in your world. We don't see what you see. You have to tell us what you see, because otherwise we see people next to us that had COVID and they came back to work.
Right. I mean, I had mentioned at our command meeting today, I mean, normally I'll have 2 nursing staff for each one of us as providers seeing patients. We're down to 1, and some of that we have 1 nurse for 2 providers. They're sick, they're out. We can't keep up. Every morning we have a report by 7:15. Who's in today? Who's out today? When we all get it, as far as the providers, I don't know who's going to see all these people, but we're going to run out of people to take care of them, and we're already running out of nurses because it's not just from the clinic. The hospital's looking for nurses. People are cross-training. They've been doing other things, and they're being stepped into a role of anything that they can do to help take care of these people. That's what I'm looking at. This is a public health issue, period. Nothing else. We need help, and we're asking for it.
Thank you. Dr. Sene?
I echo what Dr. Dan is saying. Let me take you through my day. So I rolled into the hospital this morning and I went and saw an intubated elderly gentleman on the ventilator with COVID-19. He has been on the ventilator now for about 4 days and he has not gotten any better whatsoever. Upstairs on our second floor, his wife is there, also hospitalized with COVID-19. We had, I believe, 23 COVID-19 patients in our hospital today. The hospital has been having to expand its supplies to deliver life-sustaining and life-saving oxygen to patients in the hospital. We need help, and I agree with Dr. Dan. Strongly recommend is the same thing that we're doing now. I have been telling people to wear masks every opportunity I have been given since May. I have been trying to educate people, and I don't feel that it has helped whatsoever, to be frank. I'm considering using ivermectin, which pretty much everybody on this call knows what it is because it's also HeartGuard. It treats dogs for worms. And there's a small observational study out of Broward County, Florida, of 230 people that suggest it might have a mortality benefit. That's the kind of data that I'm seizing on. I'm using small observational studies out of Broward County, Florida, and giving people HeartGuard for their COVID-19 because I don't think it'll hurt them and because it might help them. That's the level of evidence that I'm grasping for to try to help these patients. The easiest thing is to help them not get sick in the first place. I would ask for any help that the city of Watertown can offer. This is not going to be we are not going to be in a good position if current trends continue where they are. To answer the question about influenza, we're starting to see that in our community now. It's not being not much of an issue. Data from the southern hemisphere, where obviously our winters and our summers are flipped around, suggests that perhaps we might luck out and influenza might not be as severe as normal because people take precautions, which are also effective against influenza for COVID-19. But again, their winters aren't like ours here at all, and I have a hard time drawing any inferences from their experience down there. That's my day. That's my experiences with COVID-19, and I hope that the city can figure out a way to help us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sene. Before you leave, though, we've had about 600 deaths from COVID so far in the last 8 months or so in South Dakota. Do you know approximately how many influenza deaths we have in a typical year with just a rough number?
I would want to say less than 100. I don't know that number specifically. I can tell you this, as I use the seatbelt argument routinely, there are on average between 100 and 150 traffic fatalities in the state of South Dakota on a given year. Obviously, that's a fraction of what we've seen lost to COVID-19 in the last 9 months. We tolerate safety checks on our highways where we are stopped and forced to demonstrate that our safety lights work and that we're wearing safety belts and inspect equipment if we're in a commercial vehicle. Now, I advocate for those. It keeps people safe. My illustration is that we're willing to tolerate much greater intrusions on our personal liberties and our personal freedoms for other things where only 120, 150 people per year die. And so I think that we should tolerate wearing a mask when we're out in public to try to help prevent the spread. As far as the effectiveness, I'll just throw this out there. The effectiveness, the magnitude of the effectiveness is up for debate. What is not up for debate is that the impact of mask wearing, the magnitude of its effect becomes greater the greater the prevalence of the disease in the community. So the more disease that is here, the better masks will work for us all. And you can use that with car accidents, right? The faster you're driving, the more that safety belt saves your life. When you're doing 10 miles an hour and you bump into something because you're backing up and you're not paying attention, that safety belt didn't do anything for you compared to what could happen if you're on the interstate. So that's a long and rambling answer to what you asked.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilman Bueller?
Sorry, Mayor, I just forgot to take my hand down.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Councilwoman Mantee?
Yeah, thank you. I was kind of going down the bullet points as the doctors were talking. I also agree that without it saying required or mandated, there really isn't anything different that we're doing that or that we haven't already done. You know, if somebody wants to say we have an obligation, we definitely have an obligation to do this and to do it right. So replace require with obligation. I don't know what you want to say, but the point I made earlier about the number of people who are dying in proportion to their age and how much we could help the community, like Bruce said, by if we take care of ourselves and we take care of each other and we take care of the medical community, that gives us more resources to take care of the people who are the most vulnerable. And so as I listened to all of the debate and I listened to the doctors, and I know that if people can't get to their medical appointments because there aren't doctors and nurses to take care of them, or if the kids again are back home because there aren't enough teachers to teach them in school, the layered approach, I mentioned that cute little visual with the layers of Swiss cheese, that it couldn't make more sense. That makes more sense to me than anything I've ever seen. Each thing you layer on has pluses and minuses, but when you put them all together and you make an effort to use them as much as you can all together, it creates a solid barrier between having the virus and transmitting it and not getting it. And so I think that I'm leaning towards leaving it as a required, and I know that probably won't even make me popular in my own family, but I really believe that this has to be something different than what we've done all along. You know, I can't think of anything more important right now, and it's so simple. It's something that's so simple that we can do. And I believe that the reason why there's so few traffic fatalities now is because we have adopted the use of seatbelts. And yeah, it took us kicking and screaming to do that. And I hope it won't take that long for us to realize that we can help people by wearing a mask. But I don't think I can listen, does not say I can't listen to, but it hurts my heart to listen to the healthcare providers and to listen to some of my friends who work at the hospital and in the clinics, to think that it isn't, people aren't willing to just wear a mask and social distance and, you know, not go to big crowded events. It just seems like, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we not do that? You know, my double negative. We should be doing that.
All right, thank you. A vote in favor supports the healthcare providers. A vote against or removing the word required disregards the medical experts. Councilman Roby?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 points. One is, I think everybody on this call supports the healthcare providers. And however they vote on this issue, those that don't vote one way don't not support them. I think that's an inaccurate statement. Second point, I direct towards Matt Roby. Matt, if you're going to put a requirement, that's not a resolution any longer. That becomes an ordinance. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, not exactly. Resolution is simply meant for more short-term special circumstances. Ordinances are permanent enactions of the city council. So there's no reason a resolution, the form of a resolution, can't have a requirement about it.
Thank you.
Councilman Bueller?
Yes, I just want to reiterate a couple of things here. I think that yeah, it's kind of an eye opener. I do very much appreciate the doctors that joined us this evening. Dr. Riefenberger's comments about the medical staff. You know, they get into a situation where the doctors are sick and all the nurses are sick. That's a true concern. I mean, that's a reality that you know, if this continues on the course it is, we could have a lot of difficulties with that. And I think I still think that it should, in my opinion, be a resolution, but I'm not afraid of saying that we require masks for that resolution. That's not going to be popular with everybody, but when we look at what our medical professionals are telling us, the folks that keep us safe, I think we have to really take that to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Holeen?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to reiterate something that Councilman Roby said in regard to the respect that all of us have for the healthcare professionals, not just the ones, let's say, in this meeting right now, but those paying attention and those working throughout the nation and throughout the world. We respect and we respect the job that you are doing. We literally can't live without it. We thank you for that. With that said, I want to just say something that if someone were to disagree with the statement that we should pass this resolution requiring and mandating masks, does not mean that we automatically discount everything that the medical professionals in this meeting say. I know several of my colleagues on the council have reached out to friends and family members and just reached out to people that they know locally and across the nation. And the idea that mandating mask use is not universally accepted. There are studies that can prove the other way, that they are not effective. With that said, I don't see anything wrong with it. I want to make it clear, I encourage people to do everything they can to be safe. However, when it comes to having the government mandating behavior, I want to be very cautious of that. Now, Mayor, I actually applaud you very much for, I think, a very tempered approach with this, not having the enforcement and such like that. I applaud you. I thank you for doing that, for respecting everyone's issues. But you did also mention like other cities doing this, and something you said about Rapid City, where one of their city representatives said that personal responsibility has failed. Well, the interpretation that I saw with that is your personal responsibility has failed, so now our government autonomy will step in and tell you what to do. I think that's something that you just have to be very careful with. And also, just because other towns are doing something has never been justification for me to have Watertown do something. Same thing for just because other states are doing something doesn't mean that South Dakota should do something. I have relatives in Illinois, and they have been in complete lockdown for months, and their numbers are spiking almost identical to South Dakota's. So the idea that the healthcare professional advice to mandate a requirement of masks is universal is not true. With that said, I will reiterate what Councilman Roby said, and I want to encourage everyone to wear a mask. I want to encourage them to social distance, wash their hands, and most importantly, stay home when you're sick. Okay, that's probably very important on this list. So I want to applaud everyone for their work on this and their consideration. With that said, with the language as it is, requirement and mandate, I will be voting against it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see we also have Cindy Midland on the line. She's a healthcare professional from Sanford Clinic. So Cindy, would you like to weigh in on this?
I think Dr. Dan and others have provided some really good information. Just from kind of a big picture standpoint, I would just add, just to kind of get a picture and day of a life. Sioux Falls has experienced, Sanford and Avera, a huge spike, huge just in the past 6 weeks. And where early on the Sioux Falls hospitals were taking on all COVID patients from the entire region, South Dakota, Northwest Iowa, Southwest Minnesota, they're now only seeing the sickest of the sick and asking outlying hospitals. Thankfully, we have Prairie Lakes Hospital, which is a sizable hospital, can take a lot of patients and can take and accept critical care patients. But all of these hospitals have their limits. But they're even asking small community hospitals, please keep the patients to the extent that you can, because the Sioux Falls hospitals are getting overrun with the sickest of the sick. We've also incorporated things like having over 200 COVID patients on a home monitoring program to monitor their oxygen levels, their temp, and their other symptoms that they're having, if they are in a high-risk category, to make sure they don't get worse, but to hopefully try to keep them out of the hospital. That was something that we didn't do before. It's another layer to put in to hopefully utilize the limited resources we have. And also, I was going to let you know that we have a data analytics group that has been pretty spot on as far as kind of foreseeing where the waves would be hitting and peaking and coming down. And they're stating that our current peak won't fully peak out or start to come down until early to mid-January. So we're getting very close to our limit. You know, I know that you are all in a very difficult position, and so is healthcare, and we appreciate anything you're willing to do to help us. We've had kind of a difficult time trying to move the needle on masking, and so anything you're willing to do would be greatly appreciated. And then the question on influenza, that's something I had looked at about a month ago because I had that same curiosity. And the South Dakota Department of Health website states that on average, we see 20 to 25 deaths from the flu per year.
In the whole state?
Yes.
Okay, that's a little bit worse than the flu. Yes, thank you. And I'm just going to point out a couple of other things that were said at the Unified Commander meeting earlier today. One of the people said, I'm sending nurses who haven't had days off to other hospitals. No reinforcements are coming. We're expected to peak in mid-January. I support a mandate. In one day, our medical center lost 42 staff. It's extremely alarming. Another doctor said, masks are cheap, simple, and easy. No side effects. People are irritated, but a mandate is a no-brainer. And then another medical provider said, staff and providers need the help. This is the right spirit. We don't know where the pandemic will go. And I just, to me, this does seem like a no-brainer. Obviously, people have different opinions, but I feel so strongly that we should stand behind the medical professionals. We have been meeting with them for 8-9 months, and they have never gotten to the point of saying, let's do a mandate, that we think that we need one. They've never said that before, but they have now. They've said it now. Things have changed. There's a difference. This is not business as usual. So it looks like the hands are winding down. Councilwoman Manti, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a final comment in the idea of, this is going to sound really awful, so please, other council members, take this in the spirit in which it's been given, is that I find it a little difficult to say that you respect and support the medical community and at the same time disregard their request for it to be a mandate. So I have a lot of respect for what my other council members feel and say. I'm just going to offer that I believe that the support and respect come in the form of supporting what they want to have us help them with. And again, I know that everybody feels differently, but I just, I think that they go hand in hand, so.
All right, thank you. But we do have a motion and a second on the floor. We got more conversation?
Mayor.
Okay. I've got Councilman Lallam waving his hand, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a chance to reach out to several members of the medical professional, some very frontline workers. I did talk with members from Sioux Falls and Watertown as far as to see what their requirements or what their recommendations are. You know, what I've seen is across the board, there's a 50-50. There's people that believe it's the best thing in the world. There's people who believe that, yeah, it helps. However, it is not the end all be all. What you end up seeing, and this is a very respected person that I take his medical advice very seriously. He said, when people put a mask on, they drop their guard down on other items. I mean, they don't wash their hands. They don't stay distance apart from each other. They are literally next to each other because I got a mask on. I'm going to be safe. Now, I'm not discounting that by any stretch of the imagination that a mask it does help, but at the same time, we got medical professionals that can't agree in the same community. So now I heard the Unified Command. I sat on that. I listened to that. I asked about mandates in other communities and other parts of the country, and their numbers are increasing at the same alarming rates. And I'm not trying to discount it, but we do have places that are mandated that are still spiking at crazy numbers. So I asked, does it work? Does it not work? I mean, it only works if the people are willing to accept it and go with it. And to put a mandate out there that they have to wear a mask in a car, it's a little bit crazy to me to think that. At what part? And we don't have any teeth into this resolution or mandate that. Well, there's nothing to do it. And I don't want our police to be the mask police. I don't want them to be called. I think you have a certain portion of the population that will wear a mask no matter what. I think you'll have a certain portion that will not wear it no matter what, if it's a law or not. So what we're trying to do is get the people in between. I think if people take the responsibility in their own personal actions and they go through and they simply say, I'm gonna take responsibility for myself, I think we'd be better off. I mean, I'm getting texts every day from the schools that it's hitting there. Well, that goes home. So you can wear a mask, we can mandate it, but the minute you go home and then you go to see your in-laws or your grandparents or whatever, if they're not wearing it all the time, it doesn't stop it. I mean, that's the numbers are spiking. I don't know if there's a correct answer. And I'm not begrudging anyone's comments or anyone's, thoughts on this. I think people should take their own responsibility, but are we going to have it where we're going to have people in our community calling the police because we have a mask mandate and such is at such and such business and they're not wearing one? I don't want to have that divide either. I mean, we've had plenty of divide in our country as of late anyway. I just don't know if there's a great answer either way. I know our medical professionals need help. I do know that. But can we mandate something and not back it up and not have any enforcement to it? I don't know. Does that change how people will react? Yeah, you're going to have people that will follow it. You'll also have people that won't follow it simply because it's mandated. So how does that sit? It's a very decisive, comment all the way across the U.S. It's 50-50. And there's people that think it's the best in the world. There's people that are like, I'm not wearing one. And I don't know if there's a correct answer either way. Do I support that we have our people, wear them? Yes. But if if we can't enforce it, what good does it do? I mean, we're passing something that we're literally telling them there's no recourse if you don't.
This mandate is not for those who will don't respect the rule of law. It's not meant for them. We know there are going to be people that don't follow it, but there are people that aren't following it that will if it's the law. It's for them.
Should businesses be mandating it then? I mean, is that their responsibility to do that as a community? And we have businesses in town that do mandate it. I mean, and now some of them are national, but Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, Terex requires a mask, do they not? So there's some businesses that have to take that step as well. And I don't know, obviously, if we do it, it's a mandate, but it's not, they could say, no, we're not going to. I mean, it's a question I have, and I don't know if there's it's not a perfect situation. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, no matter how we look at it. And it's, I asked, a gentleman from Sanford said that there's antibodies that are available that they're starting to put out there, and it is starting to, hopefully, knock on wood, the end is coming closer than what we think it is. But we still have to take our own personal responsibility into our actions. If you don't go to, if you don't wear a mask, don't go visit, elderly relatives or people that are high risk. So I don't know. That's just a couple comments I had.
The folks in Jenkins haven't been out and having their relatives visit, but they can't live without medical providers who are sharing it with them. Dr. Sene? Are you still on, Dr. Sene? I see your hands up.
Yes, sorry, it took me a second to get off mute. I just want to stick with the science and reiterate that all serious, rigorous scientific evidence clearly states that there is a benefit to wearing masks and reducing the transmission of COVID in community settings. The only thing that's really up for debate is the magnitude of that impact. And again, what we're learning is that seems to be more dependent on the prevalence of COVID in the community. Illinois has half of the infection rate that South Dakota currently has now, at about 90 infections per 100,000 active cases per 100,000, where South Dakota has 161 per 100,000. Brookings County, which has had the city of Brookings, which has had a mask mandate, they have, they're not worlds ahead of where the rest of the state is, but out of 50 states, or 66 counties ranked in South Dakota, Brookings was number 50, way ahead of most of the state. Let's just put it that way. So I just want to reiterate that the science clearly supports this. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Holeen?
This is Cindy. I would just add
okay.
one other piece that there was discussion about Sanford's position in this. Just tonight, there was Dr. Hoffman, who is our lead infectious disease physician from Sanford, had an open letter to the governor asking for her help as well.
Thank you. Councilman Holeen?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I just want to address a couple things that some other people have said. First off, Mayor, I would respectfully ask you to rescind your comments regarding Jenkins, to specifically call out one institution in this town is not, I think, in the best interest. And I think it goes down to what some of the concerns in the council have been, which is calling out people for not doing their part. Jenkins has brought in outside advisors to examine their process. They were way ahead of everyone else in instituting a mask mandate and shutting down. They have done everything right, and yet they still get it. It just proves how bad a virus can be, and that even if you're wearing masks, their staff were wearing masks all the time inside and outside the job. So I would please ask you to rescind the comment on Jenkins and just say in general, which I know you weren't meaning to call out Jenkins, but
right. Thank you for pointing that out. If you misinterpreted what I said, then others probably did as well. So I want to clarify what I was saying, which is Jenkins has gone above and beyond. They've done absolutely everything possible. They're really, from day one, they have been protecting their vulnerable people in every way, shape, and form possible. And it's not enough. It's not enough. They're vulnerable. And it's not just Jenkins. It's every nursing home. Those folks are not going out. They're catching the virus from the community. And there's no way to completely isolate yourself if you're vulnerable. That was my point.
Yes.
You cannot.
No, I did take it as such. I just wanted to, for the public record, which I knew that you would, I knew that you would do that because I knew that that wasn't what you meant. And I know that you're a big supporter of Jenkins, as you are of all the nursing homes. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
For saying that.
Appreciate that.
I would also go back to something that my colleague, Councilwoman Manti, has said about just being a little, I can't remember her words specifically, but incredulous that we would disregard the medical advice. When I spoke earlier, I spoke very specifically. I said the medical experts in this meeting. Like many other people, I have reached out to medical experts locally, statewide, and nationally. Many of them are not in agreement regarding the effectiveness of a mask mandate. and they are not advocating for one. However, many people, especially locally, are not willing to come out and say something because they are afraid of what I will term is the new is mask shaming. If you're not in agreement of everyone has to wear a mask, then you are shamed. That's not bringing unity to the community. That I would go back to what Councilman Roby said. I'd rather bring us all together, try to build us up into doing everything right, rather than feed this attitude of mask shaming. And and I know, Councilwoman Manti, I know that I take your advice, or I take your comments in the spirit of which they were given. I'm just saying that I have talked with multiple people, especially locally, who are not in agreement necessarily, but they did not want to come out and say something. We all know that. We all know that people, you yourself even said that in your own family there's a disagreement with attitude as to effectiveness. And I think that that is in the community as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Hoyer?
Just a mixture of things. I mean, I get where Beth is coming from on this, Councilwoman Manti. Because if we disregard what the three say here, then yes, we're disregarding what they said by saying no. That's not a ding on anyone. You're entitled to feel what you want to feel. The next thing I'll say on this is that sometimes doing the unpopular thing is just leadership. A step that can do something is better than nothing. Right now, we've already been told, and I agree with them, that we've been talking about, we've recommended this for a really long time. We're not doing it. I'm guilty of it too at times. And we're reaching a point where it's going to add up. I mean, we talk about where we are today as a society. We're incredibly individualistic, and sometimes we can't see around just coming together to do something for the greater good. World War II, we rationed. And that's how we almost have to view this, is that we're backing up the people on the front line right now. I'm not going to send our doctors into their job where they're going to face this thing with one round. I'm going to give them a magazine of options so that they can do the best possible work they can. And if us supporting them is passing this with their recommendation, which they are recommending that we say required, and we take it to this level. And yeah, honestly, that's semantics. We're splitting hairs at this point. I don't see the damage passing it as is. I think we're doing the best we can with what we got. And this is a moderate approach. This is not extreme. We don't have teeth to it. This is a plea. This is a plea to do the right thing. Early on, Councilman Albertson asked that, we put teeth to it. We're not even taking it that far. This is the first step. If this gets worse, maybe we have to put teeth to it. I don't want us to have to do that either. I think it's ridiculous. I think we should be able just to band together as a community and do the right thing. Our elementary schools are almost doing a better job than some of us are. So many of those kids wear their masks just because it gets them the option where they won't have to quarantine as long if there's an exposure of something, but still they're doing more than we are in some ways. And I just feel like we can support the people around us and our medical professionals here in our community, and do the best we can for them. I don't love it. I don't love wearing it, but it's a small inconvenience. So for me, I'm going to stick with saying yes to this tonight.
Thank you. Councilman Rademski?
Just a question here for the medical community, and I'm not sure if anybody could answer this, one way or the other, but I know wearing a mask prevents you from emitting droplets, but then on the same aspect, does wearing a mask prevent you from inhaling these droplets also?
Yes, the most recent CDC guidelines updated last week include evidence and language that outlines the benefits of masks for protecting the person wearing the mask from contracting a virus. So it's bi-directional, if you will.
Okay.
That was the I had sent out in the email to you, Mayor. It was in that CDC recommendation last week.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Vilhauer?
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, the question is called. We got to vote on
Second.
that. We got to, Vilhauer called the question and
Second by Holeen.
Holeen seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Billhauer,
Just to clarify, we're voting on calling the question.
Right.
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. And now we'll vote on the motion that we have on the floor. All those in favor of the mask mandate signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please.
Billhauer,
Nay.
Roby,
Nay.
Rademski,
Nay.
Manti,
Aye.
Lalum,
Nay.
Pauline,
Nay.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Bruce,
Aye. Aye. I don't know if you got that yet.
Albertson.
Aye.
4 yes, 5 no, motion fails.
Madam Mayor, this is Councilman Roby.
Go ahead, Councilman Roby.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve that resolution, taking out the words required and mandate. And I would also recommend that we establish a committee, if you will, of people that are going to represent the city, the council and the mayor, and trying to promote mask wearing and trying and get that rate of mask wearing to go higher.
Pauline seconds.
Okay, we have a motion by Roby and a second by Helene. Any discussion? Councilman Lalum?
Don, what would you think about mandating a mask in city-owned buildings, all city-owned buildings? Would you entertain that in your motion?
We already do that, don't we?
Not all of them are mandated.
Where aren't we?
The Wellness Center doesn't have it, the ice arena does not have it,
We do, but I mean, people are choosing not to. I mean, we're not, that's no different from what we were saying.
there's no mandate
There's
actually.
reasons, like if you're exercising, you can go without, but I go to the wellness center, I wear a mask when I'm running.
Okay. Never mind.
Any other discussion? Councilman Bueller?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's a great idea. I had the same thought of putting together some sort of a committee, a group that could look at ways that we can better communicate or increase our efforts anyway to communicate the importance of some of these things. I agree with that, and I would offer to volunteer to be a part of that.
Okay, there is a group doing that already. Do you want to join them, or do you want to create a different
Yeah.
one?
No, I guess I'm sorry I wasn't aware there was a group doing
On
that,
the-
but I
it's-
would.
it's a
I
group on the-
apologize for not knowing that, but
On the incident
I
command
would
team?
volunteer to be a part of that effort.
Okay. But I mean, if you didn't realize we were doing that, I guess maybe more could be done. So it's not a bad idea. I just don't want those people to feel insulted that the community doesn't realize that they're working on it. It's the group that actually did the Mask Up Watertown campaign. But we have a motion and a second. Does anyone else want to weigh in? Councilman Vilhauer?
Councilman Rowe, we've got a question. You want to take out the word required. Well, that sentence does not read properly then. How are you suggesting we revise that? Or okay, so you're saying who are able to wear a mask are to wear one indoors? Just is that what you want done? Just take out required.
You can leave it that way, or, I mean, I know some people don't like the phrase strongly encouraged, but that's really what we're doing. The reason why I'm okay changing this language is because it's a resolution that has no teeth as it is. And I'm thinking that this is along the encouragement route versus the forced route. This will only work if we can get a good advertising campaign going. And I'm talking about people, trying to get on the radio shows, advertising in the newspaper. And I think we ought to do public flyers and social media.
Okay, fine, Don.
I'm looking for the word mandate. I know that's in here. Okay, so just take the word out, but leave everything around it. So if we take those words out, it says, declare that all people in Watertown who are able to wear a mask are to wear one. And then this will take effect immediately instead of this mandate. So that's the motion.
Matt, what's your thought on that?
In what respect?
Phrase it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
How would you phrase that? I'm asking if you just get to wordsmith that for us.
Well, if you replace the word, I don't want to make the motion for the council, so I guess you'll have to tell me what your intention is. I mean, you could put the word strongly encouraged instead of mandate, if that's what your intention is. That would be fine, it appears.
It's grammatically correct by just removing the words, though. So do you want to replace the words, or do you just want to remove the words? Your motion was to remove the words.
Let me read this a second. I'm okay removing the word.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and those opposed signify by saying nay.
Milhor,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
I'm going to vote aye, as I'd rather walk out of here with something than nothing.
Lallam,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
I think we're walking out with nothing. I'll vote no, I'll vote aye, but I think we walked out with nothing. I think we've let our doctors and nurses down, but I'll vote aye, so at least there's a step tomorrow to do something.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. The next item is old business. Do we have any old business? All right, number 9 is new business. Do we have any new business? Number 10 is liaison member reports. Are there any? Any announcements? Number 11. Okay, item 12 is executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, and we will have an executive session this evening in order to discuss and consult with legal counsel on contractual matters. We do not expect to take action upon coming out. Need a motion. Motion by Lallam, second by Bill Hauer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And those opposed signify by saying nay. Roll call vote, please, Kristen.
Okay, sorry. Bill Hauer,
Aye.
Roby,
Aye.
Rademski,
Aye.
Manti,
Aye.
Lallam,
Aye.
Pauline,
Aye.
Hoyer,
Aye.
Bueller,
Aye.
Albertson,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. We are in executive session, so you need to log out of this meeting and log into the executive session Teams meeting. And Tyler, could you invite Doug Kranz?